Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our monthly call. We have a really exciting presentation about e-submissions using online forms through LHI. So that's the main topic. Before we start, I am just going to do some quick announcements and share some opportunities that are coming up for us as a community. As usual, we will record the call. Everybody is muted right now, but we like interaction. So if you have questions or you want us to unmute you, raise your hand or chat us, and we will monitor that and try to bring you in as we move along. And we do have structured times for discussion, but just a reminder that the call will be recorded and it will be posted. We will do updates and announcements, and then we will review the LHI capacities to do e-submissions to courts and other organizations. And then we're going to focus on this new capacity we're releasing. So just in terms of announcements, we are very lucky that we now have the capacity to provide code release notes. So we will be, every time we do a code push, we're going to have some quick bullet point kind of notes posted in the resource library for developers. This way you can see what's been, changed, or if we've done any bug enhancements or any major system work, that it'll be there and it'll be in chronological order, starting with the July code push. You can access this from the developer portal. Once you log into LHI as a developer, there's a resource library tab that will take you to this area where we want developers to use as a resource for like form developer specific type stuff. In terms of training, we're planning an online training, and I've been remiss in finishing the registration form, but my hope is that I will get that out this week to all of you. The training is going to be online. And as in prior years, it's going to be an introductory week and then 7 substantive weeks. It's all an inverted classroom again. And so people will view the videos and then do their homework and then join to share any areas where they need more support or where they had questions. The other thing is that since the ITC conference is going online, our training itself will go online. And so we're trying to figure out if we want to do it online in January or if we want to do it maybe after the conference. It gives us some options. So we will let the community know. But for now, we've always done trainings in January in person. If we do anything in January, it's not going to be in person. But so just stay tuned, because we were thinking about how to do this best and the best time for the community. If anybody has feedbacks or suggestions on when it may be good to do it, feel free to reach out to me or Brenda or put it in the chat, or, we want to do this when it's convenient for everyone. The other activity that's going on is that tomorrow I'm going to be sharing with Sarah Galvan. We're going to be sharing some new national forms that will be available to all legal nonprofits from a webpage that we call Aging Safely, that is focusing on preventing exploitation of seniors. And so we created, actually with a capstone practice, we created a safety planning tool for seniors, 3 consumer forms, and a DV cover sheet for people who are moving, seniors who are moving from one state to the other for whatever reason. So those forms will be available, and we also created a very nice toolkit that you can use yourself or share with your legal nonprofits if they want to see if they want to use these forms to enhance their capacity of services for non-attorney workflows or remote workflows. So this call is tomorrow at 2 p.m. and I put the webinar link here. In terms of workshops and opportunities, ITC conference proposals are due on the 28th. I always love to see LHI partners submit proposals. If anybody wants any data or anything specific where we can help you think through a proposal or a topic, feel free to reach out. We probably are going to put 1 or 2 with other partners, and I may be reaching out to some of you. If you're interested, let me know. The other opportunity for workshops is coming up in September, and this is for the NLADA conference. They're also doing a request for proposals, and they haven't decided if they're doing it in November or December, and it's most likely gonna be a remote conference also. But just if anybody goes to that conference, or this is mostly for executive directors and for the community board members and community board, LSC board type programs and LADA members. So good conference if you want to talk to the leadership. So the topic of the day is e-submission from LHI to a court or agency. And so I think most of you are familiar with LHI, but just to quickly review, LHI started out as a sit down and print type platform, and people would print and then walk or mail or follow instructions to send that document to whoever was prepared to receive it and act on the request. So that was LHI up to 2012. And then we started doing integrations, and we set up an API, different APIs for different type of processes. And so now LHI can do full EFSP type, sophisticated and OASIS compliant e-filing. We have a project like that going in California. The other thing is that we can also do different types of case management integrations, whether they be with court case management systems or with legal service integrations, or with even partners of legal aid groups like justice centers that are not legal aid providers but are working with legal aid providers. So the case management integration is very flexible and it's being used in very neat ways. So that's a capacity. The other part is that in 2015, 2016, we released LHI Connect, which is really a capacity more to review and modify answer files. But it can also be used by partner courts that work with us closely. It can be used to review and then e-file. So for example, in Washington, D.C., the courts have 6 forms in an LHI Connect that the clerks review. And then when they review and they confirm that everything is correct, then they can e-file them directly for the litigant who's somewhere else. So that's LHI Connect, and that's been around for a while, and this is being used in multiple states, and that's been ready to go. And and then we had the LHI end user transmission, and that's where the user can send email. And originally we had it only for signed up users, and then we opened it up so that even anonymous users can send emails. And so in Q2, we sent about 53,000 emails where end users type their email into the email request box, and then LHI sent the email to whoever the end user put. So that was very, very well received. And so in listening to the pandemic and seeing what's coming on in our inbox, we really paid attention to what could be changes on the back end of LHI, and what could we work together with other partners so that we can make this e-submission a lot easier and a lot more accurate. And that's when we came up with what we're going to focus on today, and Mark Lauritsen is going to walk us through that. If you want to learn about all these other capacities, feel free to reach out to either me or Miranda. And so today, focusing on the automatic email submission, we're going to ask everyone that wants to use the techniques that Mark shares later on to fill out a form. We want to know who's using this and for what forms. We are most likely going to get requests on Zendesk from people who don't read instructions or have questions of when am I gonna hear back, or that kind of thing. So we want to know who's using the system for this with this capacity. And the other thing is that we're also going to be preparing reports, and so we're going to need to QA the reports, make sure that forms are somehow not missing, because we want to track these email submissions that we're enabled. So please fill out the form, and then Miranda is the lead on this whole project. She will reach out to you and talk to you about terms of use and everything else that we may need before you start using this. The capacity is live now, it's coded. It's just a matter of you modifying your forms and talking to your partners. But before you go and change your interviews, please fill out the form. So Mark, it's yours. I'm gonna transition to you.
Sounds good, Claudia, thank you. So as you guys see, the LHI program team and tech teams have been quite busy over the summer. Let me show you what we're talking about. I'm going to quickly go through a couple slides to explain the overall idea. And feel free to jump in with any questions or comments as I go. So as Claudia mentioned, we already have a variety of mechanisms on LHI for emailing documents to various parties. Any user, logged in or not, can email their assembled documents from an interview to whoever they want. And they can now even supplement the assembled documents with documents they upload. So if they happen to know the email address of a court or some other recipient they want to get their materials to, they can do that with current functionality. And we have a variety of integrations that Claudia also mentioned that are more substantial forms of e-filing, where you're interacting with a automated system on the other end. What's new are these two features. One is presently functional right now, which I'll mostly talk about, and the second is coming soon. And so this is the so-called email to court function. And what this does is it allows you as a contributor or a sponsor or a developer of a LHI interview to enable it so that this feature is operative. You then can, in your interview, behind the scenes, you can program in the appropriate recipient email, the subject line of the email that's going to come at the end, and have that automatically be set up for the user. So when they get done with their interview and they press email to court, they don't have to remember or look up the court's email address. They can just press the button and proceed to send to that designated recipient. And by the way, we call it email to court, but you don't necessarily have to be a court for this to work. You could potentially set it up to send to an agency or some other recipient. So when this is enabled and you put the proper information in your interview so that the email address, etc., ends up in the answer file, a button will surface for the user. I'll show a picture in a second that lets them initiate the email process. They can then optionally add extra documents to their package, and then at the end, transmit the entire package to the designated recipient. So on the right here is the new email to courts button, which will show up for the user. For you to make it happen, you need to do a couple things. As Claudia said, you should fill out that form to let her and Miranda know you're intending to use this functionality, just in case anyone has trouble with it on either the user side or the recipient side. We'll know who to talk to help straighten it out. And then inside your Hot Docs interview or your A to J interview, you need to add 3 new variables and set them. I'll show that in a second. And then finally, you need to set the so-called process set on your metadata for this module on LHI to this what's presently called Contra Costa process set, which makes this magic happen. This is all documented in some documentation that we're making available, and I'll quickly show that as well in a second. So technically, it's quite simple. In Hot Docs, in your master interview computation, which controls the questions the user sees, you just have a number of these set statements. So you set these thing called email to court email address, email to court subject line, email to court phone number to the appropriate data for the recipient. And in the event your interview supports multiple counties with different courts and different recipients, you can actually script if statements to have that be set conditionally based upon where the user is dealing with. In A to J Author, you're doing essentially the same thing. The syntax is a little different. and this, which is also replicated in our documentation, explains how to do it there. So for those that are proficient in A to J or hot docs, this is 10 or 15 minutes worth of work, and you're ready to go. As I mentioned, you can use if-then logic to conditionally set these variables depending upon the circumstances of the user. And you could even put variables in the values. So if you want to have something in the subject line that identifies the particular kind of case or issue, you can program that as well. So it's pretty powerful. Before I go back to this and talk a little more about how it's done and show you the documentation, this other feature I mentioned is being developed and tested. It's not ready yet, but this takes us another step further, which actually enables online signing. And as many of you know, there's a whole variety of approaches to e-signatures, everything from just putting a /s in a document to signify you've signed it, which increasing number of courts are happy to receive, to printing out your documents and signing it with a so-called wet signature and then scanning it back in, to having an on-screen widget that elicits a scribble from the user, where you can actually sign with your mouse or your keypad. And so at the moment, what we're implementing is that latest thing I mentioned, this widget. So we're going to have the ability soon, we hope, so that when you enable this for a module on LHI that's got a PDF template in it, and you put in some special fillable fields in that PDF template that's not too hard to do, LHI will know to elicit the signature from the user and to place it in the locations where that field is present in your PDF documents. So it's not a full solution by any means, but for some situations, it's going to be quite powerful. And that, again, will surface as another button, sign your forms. And the idea is this will work either for an interview that generates a single document, a single PDF, or one that generates a collection of different PDFs, many of which or all of which may need signatures placed in them. So pay attention to that. I'm not sure of the timing, but we're getting close to having it ready to be tested. I'm going to leave some time for questions, but in the meantime, I just wanted to show you we do have documentation. Claudia mentioned the so-called email to court feature. This pretty much explains what I just did pretty quickly. You can read it at your leisure. It tells you what will happen at various stages of the process for a user, how the file uploads work, the form that Claudia mentioned that we'd like you to fill out so we know what you're doing, the technical steps of implementing it in hot docs and in A to J, and some general notes about current nuances and limitations. But let me stop there. I think I've done what I want to do, and Claudia, back to you, and open it up for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yes, I put the links where we put the documentation. Everything is right now with the call, but I will move it to the developer support area, also available from the portal. I am happy to unmute anyone who has questions on this email capacity. It's being used already. There's already about 3 or 4 states that are using them, mostly for domestic violence, for cases that have been deemed essential by court systems. So domestic violence, some guardianships, some child support modifications, etc. It really varies state by state. The beauty of this is if your form is already live and it's being used, it gives the end user a way to send it. And what we used to deal with was that people would mistype the email when they were doing it by themselves, or they will mistype something that would glitch out the transmission from LHI, and then we would have to go and look and check if we had, if they gave us their account name, we could go and see if the email had been sent out. And that was really time consumer for our team. And also it was not, not helpful for the end user. So listening to partners and working through that, we decided that we wanted to put this e-submission capacity and make it available, because it is really an area with a lot of requests just in July, from March to July for us. the questions on Zendesk have increased over 100% on e-submission. So, you know, we wanted to make this easy and fast to use. So if you have any questions, raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
This is Bart, and I'll start off the questions. Is there any way to control from within your interview whether or not the email documents to court appears? You know, if, for example, the user hasn't satisfied some requirements to file, is no matter what you put in the interview, is that button still going to appear?
Bart, I think the quick answer is right now, yes. It may be that if you leave those three variables totally unanswered, the button will not appear. We can check on that, and that may be the best way to handle that scenario. Because I think you're right. There may be a user who's just proceeding. They haven't answered all the questions today. They're going to come back tomorrow, and we wouldn't want them to prematurely think that they can email their half-done work to the court.
Yeah, if they're coming back to review. The other thing is that this is something, you know, obvious, to state the obvious, but obviously something that before you enable this capacity, you have to work it out with the receiving court, right? You need to make sure that they know, that they're in the loop, that they give you feedback, and you know, and they may be wanting you to add an attestation or something. They may want you to modify the form to enable /s/, which is a great area of advocacy for legal service groups that are tracking what the governor orders when those expire, on the simplified notarization on the policy angle. So, you know, it could be that the form may need some slight modifications so that the court can receive it and act on it. So definitely, you know, you need to have that conversation with the receiving court.
I see that Matt Newstead has his hand raised.
Okay, let's find Matt. Matt, you're self-muted now.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for taking my question. This is exciting. I had a question, and maybe you went over it and I just missed it. I apologize. About multiple documents assembly. Do you have the ability to control which of the documents that are assembled would be included in an email?
I'll take that, Matt. Right now, no, not that I know of. I know that the programmer at LHI is working on multiple. Well, first of all, right now, non-optionally, we'll email all the documents that are assembled. So I think that's a good point we've raised. Ideally, you may want to subtract something like instructions, where you're assembling it for the user, but you don't really need the support, right? You can always add documents, but you can't presently subtract any, is the short answer.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments on this? On the e-signature piece, we're working right now, we're testing. Our goal is to do it in the September code push. So we'll confirm, you know, when it's available. I think that if you are doing this technique with docx and .rtf, since those won't have the e-signature capacity right now, maybe later on in the year, we'll be able to figure out how to do that. You may wanna have /s/ on these ones, on the docf and .rtf, and get agreements with the receiving end that would be legally sufficient.
I think it'd be great to hear any other questions or comments on sort of procedures and nuances we may have overlooked. Be thinking about. Bart and Matt raised some good ones. I'm sure there are plenty more as we start using it.
Or any feedback on how we can, you know, I don't know if providing examples of how this is being used would be helpful. Like, for example, in Puerto Rico, Ayuda Legal de Puerto Rico, they have 5 interviews and they have the domestic violence form in Spanish. They've shared with us before about that. And you know, they are still not recovered from Irma, Huracán Irma, and they're still you know, because of COVID, domestic violence and everything has increased, and domestic violence is an open process in Puerto Rico. So they were using where the user did the manual submission, but you know, talking with them, we realized, you know, for them and their assembly rate has completely increased, mostly because of the DVE submission capacity. So they have been piloting this, and we actually modified. It's available in Spanish. All the instructions at the request, the e-filing button, when the interview is uploaded to LHI as a Spanish language interview, LHI will show the same instructions in English as in Spanish. So that's if you are working on domestic violence forms, and you are going to have language equality and not build English only systems, then LHI will show the instructions in English and in Spanish if you upload the interview as a Spanish language interview. So if anybody, we haven't translated for Polish or French or the other languages, but if you do convert an interview to this capacity and you have it in like one of the LHI supported languages, let us know and we will make that happen so that the end user has the instructions in the language that they read.
I see Michael Hofrichter's hand is raised.
Okay, thank you. Let me. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Can you set multiple email addresses, like a 2-line or a CC line, or 2 emails in the 2-line?
Good question, Michael. I don't know. I don't think so, but we can check and find out. And I think you can imagine scenarios where you want to send it to 2 people simultaneously, right?
Exactly. Or send it to the court and the legal aid provider or something like that.
That's a good.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Keep them coming.
Can you still hear me? Am I muted or unmuted?
No, you're still unmuted.
Great, thanks. I was wondering, is there also a possibility for a variable that could have some text that would go in the body of the email?
We have that, right, Mark?
No, we have just the subject line, not the body. I'm sure everything is possible, but we can describe the use case for that, I guess. You want to have some sort of elicit some introductory language from the user that'll be at the top of the email that's going to the court. Is that the idea?
Yeah, just maybe to guide the clerk or the recipient on what the attachments are, if they need to know that this is who it's coming from, or this is, you know, some approved process through some organization or something like that. There just may be a need for additional context beyond what you can fit in the subject line and the attachments.
Well, there is a comment. I should take it back.
Yes, yeah, I'm showing the comment.
Yeah.
This is what shows up.
Right.
And so the user can put a comment.
Yeah, but I was thinking more of just how you can have some conditional logic within the program. So you can say, oh, if I'm sending it to this district, I want to put in this information, and this recipient should get this info, et cetera. And also, yeah, the user may or may not know what to include in the comment there.
Yeah, it's a good point. So there is some rudimentary commenting ability, but it's not programmable yet at the moment. So I wrote that down to add to our growing list of potential enhancements.
And I wanted to make an ask of all of you who are working, you know, and some of you have already shared like the websites that your courts are publishing on e-submission. But like I said, on the Zendesk, my heart gets broken often because people don't even know how to contact their courts. And so they're coming to us to say, hey, how do I e-submit this? And they don't even tell us the state, so what we've been doing is we've reached out to partners where this is happening a lot, and we now have the capacity to create individual canned notes by state, where if somebody asks us, hey, how do I created the form and I printed it, but I don't know what to do with that, we can give them the URL either of the legal aid page, because some SWEBs have created COVID specific pages with instructions or with e-submission instructions for different type of priority cases. And if we know what those are, we will send them a tailored response. And some courts have too, like I know Illinois has, Michigan has, I have some of the counties in California. But if you know what your state courts are doing for your state, and ideally if there's a global set of instructions, like California has a global set of instructions, send those to me and I will make sure that we put those in our canned notes, because even if you choose not to use this e-submission capacity, my interest is in making sure that we make the user journey better with the information that you share with us. So right now people are really particularly the people that are having like child abuse issues, child support issues, probates due to deaths, really, really difficult circumstances for the community. If you have the information, I would really, really like to get it so that then we can work with the support team to put it in individual state by state, or even county by county. If there's large collections in very large volume counties, we can put those in, because they save us a lot of time too. And at least we try to get the person a little closer to getting them to submit their documents. And nobody has asked this, is the email encrypted? No, it's not. It's an open email, just like any regular email. It's not an encrypted email. Okay. Well, some other requests from form owners and developers is we are going to roll out a new look and feel that Miranda has been sharing. And when we roll that out, all of them, and this is to comply with the guidelines from ABA that we talked about last October, all the forms are going to credit an owner. I'm just going to say this form was created by whoever is marked in the metadata as the owner. So, people know who created the interview in case they need to know. It's a best practice now. So we need all of you to review your live interviews and change it, because the default, and that request has been up for about a year. People have had the capacity to put the organization, but nobody has been using it. The default goes to LawHelp Interactive. And I don't want us to be assumed or presumed to be the owner of the group responsible for a lot of interviews that are not ours. And so I want the credit to go to your group. So if you can change that metadata piece and put your organization, or the organization, if you're a contract developer that paid you to create the form, make sure that you make that change, because as soon as we push the new front page look and feel, that is gonna be there. And it's a lot of it is mostly legacy, older interviews, that they get updated frequently, but the meta page has not been reviewed. So I ask that you review that, and while you're doing that, that you also insert the URL of the staging page in your SWEB, or if you're a court, your own court URL if you have a license with us, because that's where we go when we have somebody that is not understanding your instructions. We can give them that and to read again, or we can read it ourselves. And if we don't understand it, we may contact you. But really, if we're gonna review who owns the form, might as well change where the instructions that the person has. So these are some asks, and then the other one, and I'm gonna repeat this every month because it's gonna be a big deal. All the A to J author interviews will stop working in December per browser changes, and there will not be anything we can do. And there already are a lot of people very, very disgruntled with the flash issue. When your forms, if you have forms in LHI that are still live and posted in your SWEBs, stop working, there will be a huge amount of upset. And so the best thing to do between now and then, it's about how many months? 4 months, is to retire the ones that you're not going to update to A2J Author 6, and to start letting your users know, like if there's one that it's being used, but you're not going to be able to update it until March of 2020, make sure that people know that they need to complete the work on that interview by, I would say, November 15th. Because we're not in control of what the browsers are gonna do, because people won't be able to come back and edit their interviews once the browsers deprecate, completely stop supporting the Flash. So, and we're going to be putting system messages and stuff like that. We haven't completely come up with our own internal plan, but anything you can do to prevent this level of upset right now, looking forward, would be great. Any other questions or comments? Any reactions if this capacity may be helpful to you?
Claudia, I had a question about the organization metadata. Is there a way to get a report of all of
Yeah, I can give
interviews
you
from a certain
one.
state?
Yeah, I can pull. Yeah, I can pull that for anyone who wants it. We can pull it. You actually
Thank you.
can pull it yourself if you go to the developer portal
Okay.
and you filter by by developer. Then you will know all of the interviews that are developed by you. And so if you click on the interview, you will see the metadata that's there.
Right.
We
I was
cannot
hoping.
pull a report from metadata. We don't have that I know of, but you can find the interviews. Let me see. I'll see. We
Okay.
may
I
have
was
a
hoping.
report already. Yeah, we may have a report already. So I'll check.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a report so I could just see which ones do not have the organization information rather than going into the metadata page of every single one.
I know that would be annoying. I think we have a report. I think I've seen a report. So let me see if I can pull one. And if
Okay,
anybody else wants that, I'm happy to share it if it makes it easier to review. So the next call, it's going to be on the 22nd of September at the same time. We have not decided on a topic, and we hope it's going to be a best practice and not necessarily a technical topic like this call. However, we may be covering the e-signature piece if it's released by then, which we're hoping it will be, just to update and show people how to do the backend work on the forms. So stay tuned, but we're very excited to hopefully be able to support the e-signature on the PDFs. Any other questions or comments or last minute remarks? Okay, David has a question. Okay, David just shares that David, who is the lead developer and technology expert at Ayuda Legal, he says, we are extremely happy with this. Great stuff. And then we have a question from Lisa. Okay, she's gonna reach out to us because she has Spanish forms. Anyone else? And Sal is interested. Sal, I got your chat. Okay. Well, hopefully this can lead to some good conversations with your core partners and let you leverage the nice collections that you already have live or maybe forms that are about to go live. I would really look at the priority areas where they're doing remote hearings and see if that's something that you can work out with them. And in the meantime, if you find out e-submission pages in your state that we can use, send those to me, because I just want to make sure people know what to do next, because a lot of people are very, very lost. And they're like saying, what do? I got my documents. Where do I go? So hopefully this capacity will eliminate a little bit of that confusion for end users, where they'd be able to email it directly to your core partners. But if not, if that's not worked out, at least us having a list of the URL pages that you have, we can at least give those to them so that the form continues to have an impact in terms of closing the justice gap. Mark, any last minute comments, or Bart?
Nothing from me. Thank you, Claudia.
Okay.
Nothing for me,
Well,
thanks.
we'll be posting this, and really appreciate all of your interest and all of you staying with us. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.